right. So I guess we're live. Okay. So this is going to be the first time that I'm actually using a mic. So we're going to see how this works. All right. So we're going to get into it today. We're doing chapter 3, part 2 of Luis Monero's, if you're joining us, Demystifying the Out-of-Body Experience. I kind of want to jump into it today before we get started. Okay. So lately there's been a lot of diversion with everybody over like everything and nonsense. That's not what I want to get into. What I do want to get into is I post on TikTok too about OBEs and how to OBEs and this and that. God, I really hope you guys can hear me. I don't know if you guys can hear or not. Okay, wait, my mic is going. Okay. How to OBE and stuff. And I even got really mean messages from somebody, it was months ago, about my interview with Jordan, talking about how to OBE. And she was like, oh, that she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's making this all up and just being like so rude and crazy. And I like couldn't believe it too, because she's a fellow astral projector. And I'm like, how mean? How are you going to tell another astral projector that they're lying? You know, when I'm sure you as an astral projector, people think that you're lying all the time, but we know, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. So anyways, this is the point that I want to get to. And I've even struggled with saying, so what I say is, for me, I say like, this cannot happen or this is not possible. But what I mean is those things are not possible for me because I don't believe in those things. So, and this goes back to like reality. We all create our own reality. Nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. It's just, what do you believe in your reality and what do I believe in my reality? And there's certain beliefs and things that I've read that I believe in my reality, and also goes to like what works for me will not always work for you. So like, let's say the other girl who was saying I was lying and I was making up all kinds of stuff. So say my techniques that work for me 100% and get me to astral project, for her, if she tried those same techniques, they're not going to work for her. And the reason why is because she believes that they don't work. And that's as simple as that. It's as simple as believing what you do. Like I said, in our life, we create our reality because of what we believe and what we don't. So it's as simple as that. And like I said, I've said things like that where this will not work, this will not happen. But again, like I said, I need to preface it by saying this is for me and this is my opinion. So these things do not work for me. That doesn't mean that they don't work for somebody else. Yesterday too, I was on the comment section over an astral projection, and this guy was saying like, don't do it, it's so bad, this and this and that. And I was like, hey, like, I disagree. I'm not saying that that's not true for you. I 100% believe that's true for you. That is just not true for me. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're a liar. It's just that's true for you and I believe you, but also that's not true for me. So that's it. So I just wanted to preface that. Got it off my chest. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, another thing before we start on chapter 3, we're going to be talking a lot about psychosoma and mental soma later. And we go over that in chapters 1 and 2 and 3, but let's say this is your first time checking in and you don't know what I'm talking about. To simple it down, psychosoma is your astral body. When we are astral projecting, when we are having an OBE, this is normal, the astral body. Some people say it's like a ghost, right? So it's another you, okay? It's an energy of you. It has a head, it'll have your face, it'll have arms, it'll have your legs, it'll have your body, and that's normally what we're astraling in. It's called the psychosoma. There's a lot more to go into it. You can watch my other chapters 1, 2, and 3 to learn more about it. Now, the mental soma is pure consciousness. So in our psychosoma, our astral body, our mental soma is always in there. That's your consciousness. It's in our body right now, and it's in our astral body later. It's always there. It'll never go away. But later on, we talk about you can have an OBE astral projection where you don't have your astral body, though. It's just pure consciousness, and that's your mental soma body. So I wanted to get those two words down right now. So let's get started. Okay, so we are, like I said, on chapter 3, part 2. All right, so this is where we left off. Extra-physical understanding is the result of what was comprehended, concluded, and generally observed from the overall experience. The quality of this understanding will be affected by the level of lucidity, interest, experiencer of the projector, amount of dense energy being carried, your energetic load, conditionings, and others. Okay? All right, here we have an example. I'm going to read it to you. Probably should get next to the mic, yeah? Okay, Larry has a room in his house that he has recently painted white. While outside the body, during one of his first lucid projections, he realizes that the color looks very different from his intraphysical conception of the color white, meaning it looks very different when he's in his body in our reality, that it looks different. After briefly looking at it from different extra-physical angles he was astral projecting, he comes to the conclusion that the color he is perceiving is not actually white. And furthermore, this second color is new to him. What he's seeing is new to him. He has never seen a color like this and wonders if this color even exists in the physical dimension. Afterward, when back in the body during the recording of his experience, he writes in his notebook that the color he perceived was white. So we'll go into why that was later, okay? Right now we're going to kind of go into it. Larry, while manifesting with the psychosoma, is therefore able to perceive more colors, and as a result notices that what intraphysically appeared white to him seems like a different color to him extraphysically. However, Larry is unable to bring this knowledge back into the physical dimension, so he ends up writing in his notebook that the wall is white. And I think he says this later on. The physical brain can be compared to certain instances to coin sorters. Yeah, let me just read it. Okay. So this is. Okay, sorry. I'm just like, what should I say? Okay. So this is the example for the coin sorters. The whole thing with white's going to be explained right now. So coin sorters, you have quarter, a dime, and a penny, right? And you throw them in the coin slots, and they throw them in the correct slots for you, right? But let's say we get a European coin get thrown in, and they're different sizes. So which one is it going to go in? Is it going to go in the quarter one? Is it going in the dime one? Even though, let's say it goes in the quarter one, it's not a quarter though. You know, it's something different. It just doesn't know where to put it. So it throws it in somewhere simultaneously. So, like it will either place this coin in the wrong slot or the coin will become stuck. This is the equivalent of Larry seeing the color is white because he does not have any other slots in his mind to fit the color into. Once Larry remembers this extra physical color, he will have it in his mind that though he will have it in his mind, though he will be unable to share it with anybody else, explain it, or draw it. This is intraphysically subjective knowledge. It is very real indeed, yet it cannot be physically described to anyone else. Another problem Larry will have is in writing this in his journal because no language has a term for it. The easiest and most practical thing to do in this case is to make up a word and use it to represent this new color. So that's exactly it. In the extraphysical, you're going to see crazy different colors that are not of this world, and we have no language for it. So that's the easiest thing he's saying is to just make up your new language for these things that you're seeing when you're coming back. So yeah. All right. Example. Okay. 5 friends decide to meet each other outside the body. They agree on a time and a place. 2 of them are unable to leave the body. Joanne is 20 minutes late and therefore does not find anybody else there. Dawn and Amy are there on time and are able to meet each other. Where they are meeting, there is a coffee table in the middle of the room with an object on top of it. The object is a man riding a horse, a decorative ornament. The next day, they meet to discuss what happened. Dawn and Amy remember meeting each other, and Dawn remembers what they were talking about. Well, because specifically for him, it was very important to make contact with somebody else extra physically. Amy does not remember the communication with Dawn with as much detail as he does, but she remembers the ornament on the coffee table. She knows it was a horseman who had a uniform similar to the one a friend's son uses in the school band. Dawn missed the object completely and is about to argue that there was no such subject at all. When all of a sudden Joan starts describing the object enthusiastically and in detail. She noticed not only the uniform of the horseman, which in her mind was a military uniform, but also the fact that the horse seemed tired, something Amy missed completely. From this example, we can see the same reality can have different effects on different people, and also how their different individual personalities' interests affect their overall experiences. In certain cases, individuals may not even understand what they are seeing. This is dependent on their level of intraphysical and extraphysical knowledge. It would be the same as if an indigenous man from the jungles of Africa, who has never seen or experienced technology, was put inside a complex virtual machine game. What would he explain to his tribe when he went back to his community afterward? So that's exactly what I was saying to before, was that they all met up, right? They all met up. They talked. Dawn doesn't remember seeing the little thing. One girl remembers seeing the thing. She remembered it had an outfit. And then the other girl remembers seeing the horse as well, but she said that the horse looked tired, something that the other girl didn't remember. So they all had the same exact experience. All three people had the same exact experience. Each single one of them had different experiences because they come from different points of view. So that's where it goes to the point where I was just saying, Dawn was about to argue and say, no, you're wrong. But no, she wasn't wrong. They're like, nobody was wrong. Everybody was right. They all just had different experiences from the same experience. And so that's what I was coming to say, like, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It's just what we believe in, what we want to believe in, this and that. So anyways, I need to continue. And yeah. Okay. Let me see, where were we? Okay, so now we're talking about Morphetheoscenes. Morphetheoscenes are extra-physical forms, elements, and realities created through or with theoscenes. Theoscenes are thoughts, sentiments, energy, and emotions. Again, if you want to learn more about these words, go to, you can go over my chapters 1 and chapter 2, or if not, get the book. Totally get the book. Okay. It's amazing. All objects, structures, cities, and so forth observed in the extra-physical dimensions are constructed out of morphotheoscenes. They are concentrations of theoscenes that acquire a form. Their density can fluctuate from relatively solid, like extra-physical walls, to relatively fluid, like the extra-physical semi-materialization of people's dream images. Morphotheoscenes can be consciously or unconsciously created. Projectors manifesting in the extra-physical dimension can create objects by consciously focusing their theoscenes on specific forms. They can also create extra-physical morphotheoscenes without it. Okay, so here's an example that what it is. Okay, so sorry, water, really quick. In the astral world, especially on the tropospheric, it looks almost exactly how our world looks right now. So you can go out, leave your astral body, and you're in astral realm, and it'll look like your room. You'll see houses, you'll see the stuff in your house. But so this is where he gives an example of a vase, right? So you got a vase about a couple years ago. It's a beautiful vase. Lots of people compliment you on your vase. You love that vase. You look at it every day, and people tell you like, "Oh, it's such a beautiful vase." You talk about it. So eventually, when you first get that vase in the astral world, the vase will probably not be there because the energy is brand new. But eventually, after a couple of years of you seeing it and loving it every day, people seeing it and coming over to your house and loving it, eventually that energy will create the morphotheoscene of the vase in your house. And this is the crazy part too. So let's say one day you break your vase, right? In the astral world, that vase is still there because that energy is still there. Even though the physical object is gone, so much energy of you focusing on it, people seeing it, loving it, that energy is there for a while. So that energetic base will not leave the astral world maybe for a while. So that's just that's just the minimum. So there's other structures, there's buildings, there's houses, like I said, there's like tons of other stuff. In some other cases, extra physical structures are so dense and have been established and reinforced energetically and theosonically over such a long known periods of time that it seems as if absolutely nothing or anyone can alter any little part of the formation. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Extra physical dimensions. These are different realms or places of existence where extra physical consciousnesses coexist. The analogy of radio frequencies can be used to explain dimensions. A radio can detect a large number of station frequencies. These frequencies all occupy the same space and do not collide with each other because of their different characteristics. In the same sense, dimensions are not separated by a frequency or distance. They simply exist at different levels. An analogy that can be used is as a radio that does not need to be moved to another room to turn into a different station, because as all radio frequencies are found in the same room, it's just a matter of changing the dial. And also, I have kind of noticed this too. It really is like dialing in, especially at nighttime. It's like a flickering. In the theta state, it's like a flickering, like you are trying to dial into a radio station, you know, like the old ones, it was literally a dial, and like you would get closer and it would like sound better, and you move back and it would sound horrible. So it's like that. You're like trying to energetically dial in. So like it's literally like that. Like some seconds it'll be like super clear, you'll see this picture, and then it'll kind of fade away and go away. Or like you'll hear something super clear for a second and then it'll fade away. Or sometimes it looks like I'm just moving the dial really quickly, like it's just images popping up and voices and things popping up. So yeah, it is kind of like that. It's like dialing in on a radio. Okay, like a radio, consciousness can access a large number of dimensions or realities. It's just a matter of tuning into them. So pretty like what I just said. The physical dimension is the reality in which intraphysical consciousnesses, human beings, manifest. There are several well-known physical aspects of this dimension, but not limited to consistency of time, space, volume, and distance. Tropospheric or crustal extraphysical dimensions are the planes closer to the Earth's crust. It is in these dimensions that the majority of initial lucid projections take place. Some tropospheric dimensions are almost exact replicas of the physical dimension, like I said, like your house, the base, okay? A projector will recognize known physical places, landmarks, and cities in these dimensions. And this is for what I think too, this is for like where ghosts are, and like I think they're on the tropospheric dimension. Different subject, but that's what I believe. Okay. These dimensions are inhabited by extraphysical consciousnesses with a lesser degree of lucidity, exactly like kind of like ghosts who don't know they're dead. They're kind of low lucidity, so they stay on what looks to them, what's familiar to them. Number 3, proper extraphysical dimensions have less association with the physical dimension. Proper extraphysical dimensions constitute a wide range of realities, from less lucid planes to highly evolved ones, from dimensions with many objects to dimensions with few apparatuses and edifications as well. The physical sun does not have an effect on these extra-physical dimensions because the physical dimension is not perceived, therefore, night and day do not exist. The native inhabitants of each extra-physical dimension can also vary greatly according to the dimension. For those consciousnesses that are about to be reborn or that are returning from a physical life, many of these dimensions are similar to transit stations. Number 4, mental dimensions are reached with the mentelsoma. Reaching these realities requires an expansion of consciousness. These dimensions no longer present any characteristics of the physical dimension, such as distance and time. Extra-physical dimensions in general are conditions or places in which consciousnesses with an interrelated affinity meet and coexist. The affinity that draws them together is a similar holotheoscene that they all manifest. In other words, it is the theoscenic quality or energetic information that differentiates one extra-physical dimension from another. And then on the next page, he has a figure kind of showing. So let me see. So greater intellectual content dimensions, dimension A with a thought that's focused really on thought, I guess. Then I think it's lower intellectual, and then we have greater emotional dimensions. Let me see. And then this is just a small scale. So then between those, there's like billions and billions and billions of different dimensions in between these, and they all have different energies that can get you into them and get you out of them, right? Okay. So like he says, and others with greater emotional content in the dimensions. Furthermore, there are more than just these two states of information manifested through energies. There is, in fact, an enormous gradient between them. The exact number of dimensions is unknown. There certainly seems to be a very large quantity. The energy of hundreds of thousands of extra-physical consciousnesses which have an affinity with a particular Holotheoscene live in it, continuous to feed those Holotheoscenes. So basically what he's saying is like how we live in this dimension, and so we give energy to everything around us daily, that we are feeding the tropospheric dimension. And it's the same when other dimensions, all the people who live in it feed that energy constantly so that it's there. It will always be there as long as those people are feeding that energy to it constantly. Okay, skipping. Skip. In some proper extra-physical dimensions, even the reality of ground does not exist. This is because you don't need it. Later on, we're talking about in astral projection, you don't need the ground. Like, you don't need to walk. Other lower dimensions have ground because the consciousness coexisting there have not lost the physical conditioning of required ground that comes from physical lives. So that's basically saying, like, in the beginning, you don't need those things. You don't need your feet. You don't need your hands. Like, we can walk through walls. You can fly. But saying that is a lot easier than actually doing it. So we do these things over and over again that we think that we need that. We think that we do need the ground when we get there. So yeah, that's just basically what he's saying. Generally, when we are projected in the proper extra-physical dimensions, we will have the tendency to be in a dimension that has similar characteristics to ours. In order to travel to very different dimensions, we will need to tune into their characteristic holotheoscenes. It is observed that more than a place, dimensions are a state of mind, of consciousness, meaning there is no addressed dimensions, but only a pattern of energies, state of mind, that we as projectors need to generate within ourselves so as to arrive there. Individuals, when further developed, can perceive more than one dimension at a time. So let me see, I'm trying to think. For most of my astral projection, yeah, I've been on Earth. I have traveled to different dimensions. For the most part, I have seen low vibrational beings where they look different. They look like cartoons. They look like scary things, you know. But the other people that I've seen look kind of like normal people. I talk about that in other videos where they look like, and there's different things about them. And I even talk about I went to a blue forest, and that was amazing. But at the same time, I recognized that as a forest. So it was still, even though it's blue, it was still something very recognizable to me. Let me see. Characteristics of the psychosoma, which is just the astral body. Self-luminosity. Bioenergy is perceived as a certain luminous substance, so it glows. The level of luminosity in the extra-physical dimension is a reflection of the holotheoscene in that dimension. Extra-physical dimensions have energetic pattern that is naturally lighter or darker. Let me see. Okay, this is a renewal. Everything is made from energy, and energy is seen outside the body and glows. A novice projector or individual who underwent an NDE can say, I saw a being of light with a lot of light around him, or a great light spoke to me. Yet, since everybody is luminous, the fact that there is light is not a good criterion for determining evolution. In these cases, it was not necessarily an evolved being that was present. Furthermore, if you already control the exercises of the energy that are presented in the last chapter, you can control the level of luminosity you display outside. So basically what he was just saying, in your astral body, we all glow a little bit, and that we can control the level of our glow. So when some people have astral bodies or say, I saw a being of beautiful light, and he's just basically saying, just because they have a beautiful bright light doesn't mean that they're like basically saying good or like have your best intentions, because we all glow and we can all make that light big if we want. So yeah, just don't necessarily take light or brightness for goodness. Basically what he's saying. The psychosoma is able to permeate denser dimensions and structures. Projector can pass through walls, objects, doors. We know this, okay. However, the psychosoma cannot go through structures of the same density. So like our astral arm cannot go through your other astral arm. Your astral arm cannot go through your astral body because it's the same density, I guess. The level of lucidity also affects the condition of self-permeability. Yeah, I mean, level of lucidity affects a lot of stuff. If you're really low level lucidity, you're not going to be able to do a lot of things. Weightlessness. The psychosoma cannot be weighed and therefore cannot fly. In certain instances, we notice that we do not elevate as expected. Individual sometimes has dreams of not fully flying per se, but of jumping over several houses or trees. Because of the lesser degree of lucidity. Also, so to that too, because I get that a lot too, where I'm not able to 100% fly, but it's like I can jump really high or kind of float really high. And so that has to go back to like your energy. You have stagnant energy holding you down, weighing you down, and that's also going to make it harder for you to leave your astral body. And that's where it goes back into like you think you're having a dream, you don't know that you're actually astraling. That's why you think you're dreaming, that you're flying or jumping really high. So I go over that in other chapters to learn how to clean those stagnant energies so that you can have a good OBE experience. Invisibility and inaudibility. Projectors and extra physical consciousness are not perceived by the normal physical senses. Let me see. Okay, so this is just basically seeing like we don't need to see through our para eyes. We don't need to hear through our para ears, which is our astral ears or astral body. And this is the crazy part too, where in the astral body, you can see 360 if you want to. It's just that, you know, us as humans, we're not used to that. So when you go into the astral body, we don't automatically start seeing like that because our brain kind of still thinks that it's not possible. And the hearing too, the hearing is the same thing. You don't need to hear like from ears. You can hear from all over, you know, it's crazy. Let me see. Self-transfiguration and elasticity. It's malleable and can change form as will. Change shape, change height, change hairstyle, transform your appearance. Okay. So this is a point where the psychosoma can stretch to the ends of the earth, to the ends of the universe, to the ends of all creation. It can stretch. You can go be all over at once, and this is where it goes. That's easier later in the mental soma ones. It's hard for our bodies as a human to wrap that around, that we can be covering the entire billions of universes all at once, but it is possible. And this is the thing too, where he gives another example, that since you can change your appearance at will, that let's say you're astral projecting and you see an Elvis, right? But you could see multiple Elvises because people can change what they look like. So just because you see that person looks like that, does that mean that they're actually that person? No, because we can all change our appearance to make it how we want in the astral body. And that's where he says too, like, oh, if you astral and you see a consciousness with a halo and wings, does that mean and a bright light, does that mean that they're necessarily an angel? No. And actually, normally what he says is that if you see somebody who looks like that in the astral realm, that they're probably not a high consciousness anyways, because high consciousness don't care what the body looks like. So they're not going to be like giving themselves wings and like brightness and halos, because they don't care what Earth's idea of a good being is. They could care less what we think is good or bad too. So just because you're necessarily seeing things like that doesn't mean, like, again, that it's good. And the same goes for like what we deem as negative. It's just what us as humans have been trained to believe. Oh, if it's dark and black and has like a hood on it, then be scared of it. It's evil. It's bad. It's gonna hurt you. It's gonna take you. It's gonna take your soul. No, that was programmed into us as humans to be scared of things like that. Anyways, moving on. Elastic. The projector can elongate any part of the psychosoma. Again, you can stretch. You can't rip this over cord. You're fine. You're invulnerable. You are invulnerable. Next one, invulnerability. Feeling pain outside the body is a physiological, mental, and subjective condition. Since a psychosoma does not have a nervous system, we may fly into a physical wall at high speed, and because of conditionings during our life, we may generate and feel pain, as this is how we understand this experience should be. And this pain is very subjective and inconsistent, since perhaps during another projection with great lucidity, we may undergo the same experience and not generate any pain. Extra physical pain is created by what we think. Again, going back to whatever you think, whatever you imagine, you are creating that. And that goes again to, like, let's say somebody who did crash and they said, well, I didn't feel anything, like, and then somebody who did crash and was like, oh my God, that really hurt in the astral body. Are they both right or wrong? No. Somebody was able to create that and the other person doesn't create that. So nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It just depends on what you create. And also, this is where it goes to, if you're low lucidity, then you may not realize that you're astral projecting. So you think, oh God, I hurt myself. But yeah. No individual simply produces thoughts alone, but produces theoscenes, which are thoughts, emotions, and energy. This theoscenic creation of pain produces an energetic pattern that in some instances can stay with us upon returning to the body. The way we release these theoscenes from our psychosphere in order to eliminate the sensation is producing a vibrational state, causing a dissimulation. The psychosoma is completely indestructible and will not be damaged by our OBE explorations. We can stay underwater for an entire projection. We can go to an active volcano and swim in lava. We can enter into a nuclear reactor or even stand on a freeway and allow an 18-wheeler to go through us. Because you are invulnerable when you are astral projecting. Isn't that amazing? All right, let's see. 34 minutes already. Jeez, do we have to break this into 3 parts? I think there's only a couple pages left. All right. Exploring flight and time. Flying over vast bodies of water, such as the ocean, is recommended as the individual directly absorbs large volumes of immanent energy. Hydro energy is specifically from the water, recharging the person for several weeks after. This is something I have been trying to do for years, trying to get to the ocean to get this beautiful hydro energy and get me energized for several weeks so I don't need no Red Bulls. But have not been able to do it yet. Have not been able to fly over the ocean or any water yet. When it happens, I'll let you know. The ability to reach the desired target is dependent on a combination of several factors. First and foremost, the extra-physical lucidity of the projector. How lucid are you? You're at a low percent. You don't even know what you're doing. You think you're in a dream. And if you're at the much higher percent, then you can say, okay, I know I'm astraling. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to go. Okay. And if the level of lucidity and control is high enough, then in order for us to arrive projected at a specific target, we will have to focus our will on the target. We will feel ourselves moving toward that objective. The more focused our attention is and the better we know the target, the easier it will be. We can also reach places that we have never been before. This can occur in two ways. Projectors may stumble upon through exploration a previously unknown place or dimension. Number two, projectors can make something or somebody else their target, aiming to arrive at this target and therefore at the intended place as well. So both have done. I've done the other one where I've stumbled upon different dimensions, like I've said. And then basically the other one is saying like, say I want to go see grandma, but grandma's in Alaska. So you're going to end up in Alaska because grandma's in Alaska. So it just takes the will again and the lucidity to get where you're going. And then that's where it goes back into, if you think about something else for a second, you're not going to keep going to, like, let's say the ocean. If you think about grandma, it's going to start taking you to grandma. And then you have to focus your will back. Oh, I don't want to go to grandma. I'm trying to get to the ocean. We're trying to get to the ocean. You need to stay focused and keep your will up. All right. The time it takes to arrive at a specific place may vary. During the first attempts, the projector might feel that some time has actually passed by some seconds. Yet, as the experience and proficiency of reaching targets is improved, the projector will be able to arrive almost instantaneously at certain places. Time is very subjective extra-physically and does not exist in the same way it exists physically. And that's why we have the tip of having an electric clock by your phone, so that way you can kind of see what time you left for an astral projection, and when you come back to your body, you can look at the clock and be like, oh, I was gone for 20 minutes. Oh, I was only gone for 10 minutes. But then, you know, and this is exactly what he's saying right now. In tropospheric dimensions, which is dimensions that look pretty much exactly like our dimension now, the sense of time has a closer relation to the physical one. So he says, there is, however, extra physical sequence of events that cannot be reversed, going back to change the past, like Back to the Future. Anyways, so what he's saying is that like 30 minutes, it can feel like 30 minutes in your astral projection, but actually when you come back, it was actually only like 50 minutes. And then he's saying that okay, time is a real intraphysical illusion, just like matter. That it evolved extra-physical dimensions has all but disappeared. Though these projections are rare, there are accounts of projectors who have had extra-physical experiences that were subjectively worth 1 or 2 years of their life, when maybe only less than half an hour went by in the physical dimension. So basically what I just said, they were only gone for about 30 minutes. They check the clock, they come home, right? And they're like, I lived 2 years in the astral world. I was only gone for the night for 30 minutes, but I lived 2 years. And those are very rare, but they can happen. So yeah. And then also this is where he goes into the normal time for projections. The most normal time for projections is 40 minutes. Usually they're about regular length, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. For mine too. And then of course you can pop in and out throughout the night for mine too. And then the lucidity goes into it. But I would say mine are 10, 15 minutes is what I've been able to do. And I'll have multiple in the night. I'll go in and go out. But yeah, about 10, 15 minutes is where I'm at. And of course, like he says, amazing things happen. You go all over the place in these 10 or 15 minutes and you see the craziest things. It's just beautiful, beautiful experiences. And I want to share that with you guys. Type of projections. Partial projection is like only if like only an arm gets out or a head gets out or your leg gets out. And those, we feel these a lot too. Or like maybe only the top of your body gets out of your actual body, but you haven't completely left. This happens all the time with me too. Separating. Leisure projection. Projections in which the projector flies to go visit a friend or other dimension. This is the extra physical equivalent of physical tourism, which I had been doing for a while, and now I need to focus more on helping people, trying to learn my life path, my life lessons, get more connected with my spirit guides again. Nothing wrong with the tourism, like it's amazing. You get to see these different dimensions. But yeah, you could be doing better things with your time, I guess. A loaded projection, we're trying to like shake ourselves free. So this is where you're like really heavy, low lucidity. It's hard to like get out of the body. So what you want to kind of do is you want to exteriorize your energy, and that way it'll cleanse your energy, and then you don't have to worry about it. Let's see. Educational projection. This type of projection seems to have a lesson or objective. In many instances, it is a practical lesson, such as applying our energies to change dimensions, creating Morphetheoscenes, controlling our thoughts, flying among others. In certain situations, the learning comes from observing something, a condition that will help us understand something more specific. These projections seem to be coordinated by a more evolved being called a helper or spirit guide. Assisted projection. So this is especially in the beginning when you're trying to learn. I think a lot of them are assisted projections. Your spirit guides or your helpers are sending you energy so that you can leave your astral body on your own. And also, it doesn't have to just be a spirit guide. You could also do it too. If you want to go help your friend, you and your astral body and your astral, you can go to your friend and send them energy to help them leave. But of course, that's when it goes back to lucidity. If they're a low lucidity, it's going to be really hard for you to get them out. A joint projection is where you get to fly with your friends or go meet up with your friends in the astral body. And there's an experience he gives, but it's a couple pages long. I was going to read it to you, but this is getting long. Maybe I'll read them all in another video. But he's just talking about a joint projection. He met up with his friend or his wife, and they went flying somewhere and did some stuff together in the astral world. Projections in series. This is where, like he says, like people can like literally take classes or join a class in the extra physical world. Or if you want to go help somebody or something with energy, you can go back multiple times, whether it's multiple times in a night, or if you plan to go back every single night that you astral, to go back to that place and continue with your work there. Mentlesomatic projection is when we are astraling, but you are no longer in your astral body. You don't need, and we're going into this right now, you're just pure consciousness astral projection. So we're going to go more into that right now, what that is. The mental soma is arguably responsible for the main aspect of consciousness lucidity. Projections of the mental soma are an expansion in lucidity awareness. Mental somatic projections are much harder to produce than psychosomatic projections. And sorry, my legs are hurting, I gotta turn. Are much harder to produce. It usually takes years or decades for people to develop the skill. These are very different experiences because they have very little relation between the mental dimensions and the physical dimensions, which makes the mental somatic reality harder to understand. To fully grasp it, this reality needs to be experienced since language is inadequate to describe it. So we're showing, for those who don't know, what is the mental soma, what is the psychosoma. So when I say psychosoma, I am talking about this astral body. That's a cord, that's your astral body. This is your mental soma, which is pure consciousness. Now you can, normally in the beginning, we're having, our astral experiences, we're taking our astral body with us, our psychosoma. But later on, you can have just a pure mental soma astral projection. And then later he goes on to say, so we can leave one of two ways. We can leave our normal route in the beginning. You leave with you leave your body from your psychosoma, and then from your psychosoma, your mental soma can leave. Or your mental soma can just straight up leave your body and leave the psychosoma as well. So we're going into those two different things right now, okay? All right, let's see. The mental somatic dimension is a state of mind that permeates the entire universe. Subdimensions within the mental dimension are difficult to make sense of from a physical point of view. This is due to the fact that we, as intraphysical consciousnesses, are normally biased due to our concepts of time, distance, and overall reality. The mental somatic dimensions are full of evolved ideas, some of which are incomprehensible to projectors. Since the reality of distance does not exist in the mental somatic dimension, the mental soma is basically omnipresent. Concepts like size have no point of reference in the mental somatic dimension. So this is where he's talking about we can experience macroscopy, which is the condition of perceiving endless amounts of space. For example, many galaxies at once in one instance and one perception unit. One perception unit as an example, is when I say chair, your understanding and your thought of what comes in chair, it happens in 1 second. That's one perception unit. So we can experience in the mental soma one, we can experience billions of galaxies and understand it in 1 second like that. And be there and understand it, be in that whole thing in 1 second in the mental soma projections. And also, we can also do the opposite of that, which is microscopy. So in this condition, we can focus on the smallest subatomic particles and explore them as if they were the size of a galaxy. So the tiniest little subatomic particles, I don't even really understand. I just know it's tiny, like an atom, and it'll look huge. And we can go through it and see it as if it's like a world and walk through that world and see things. Again, in the mental soma. Astral projection. You can't normally do this in the normal psychosoma astral projection. Differences between the psychosoma and mental soma. As a general rule of thumb, recalling a projection is dependent on the level of awareness in the projections. Therefore, if we are projected in the mental soma, we are able to achieve 100% lucidity, then the recollection should be easier. In practice, however, the case is the opposite. Usually, mental somatic projections are harder to recall than psychosomatic projections. And this is number one, how I showed you that picture, because so you're from the psychosoma, like I said, you have to remember from your psychosoma, your consciousness has to remember back, your mental soma, that experience has to remember back to your psychosoma. So now it's in your psychosoma, your astral body. So it has to remember that experience there. Then it has to remember that experience back into this body. So it basically has to cross two bridges. The psychosoma one, our astral body, we just go straight from there. Our memory is in there, and then it comes back into our body. The mental soma, again, has to cross two bridges. It has to go into the astral body, then from the astral body, back into your body. So that's why they're normally hard to remember. Again, so then it goes back to the coin one, where it's so different that it kind of has no slot to go. So then you're like, you don't put, it doesn't go anywhere, right? It goes in the wrong slot, something different, or it gets stuck. Let me see. Yeah, okay. So exactly what I said. Sorry, okay. The level of lucidity is something that can fluctuate wildly in the psychosomatic projections. This happens as a result of emotional imbalances, lack of energetic control, and holotheoscenic influences in the extraphysical environments. However, in mental somatic projections, the consciousness does not lose lucidity for any of those reasons because we do not manifest emotions in the same sense. I'm sorry, I'm getting hot, starting to sweat. Let me put my fan on. Okay. Notice the psychosoma is called the emotional body because it processes and produces emotions. The mental soma has its own feeling, yet these feelings are much more refined than the raw emotions of the psychosoma. So, emotions are feelings that can diminish the lucidity of the consciousness if they are too intense. Sentiments are sensations, feelings that do not diminish the lucidity of the consciousness. In fact, some examples of sentiments are universal brotherhood or sisterhood, lucid love, fraternalism, lucid compassion, and serenity. Notice the difference between the sentiments and emotions. We can have an attack of rage or passion, yet it does not make sense to talk about us having an attack of brotherhood or serenity. Okay. It is theorized that the mental soma does not have a form. Okay, wait. So let me get back into that thing. Again, in the psychosoma, if there's too much emotions, too much bad emotions, too much negative emotions, you're going to go straight back to your body. With your mental soma, since it's more consciousness and thinking, it's a feeling, not an emotion. You're not overwhelmed with those emotions, so you don't normally snap back to your body, which is a good thing. It's a really good thing. Okay. It is theorized that the mental soma does not have a form because it does not need to have one. As the consciousness evolves, it overcomes physical conditionings. In this case, the conditioning of needing to present an appearance. As we go to more advanced extraphysical dimensions, there are fewer forms and Morphetheoscenes in appearance, and the mental soma follows the same line of logic. The consciousnesses inhabiting the mental somatic dimensions realize that the psychosoma is already obsolete in many aspects and unnecessary for them in their evolution. Upon analyzing the psychosoma, we arrive at the same conclusion. So again, that's what I was saying. Mental somas believe that the astral body with the arms that looks like us is obsolete. We don't need it. And I'm basically going to explain it right now. This is really simple. The psychosoma it looks at your body, it has your face, it has eyes, it has nose, it has a mouth, it has hands, it has legs. We don't need legs because there's no ground in most dimensions. It's unnecessary. You could fly. We could fly and float. So what do we need legs for? You don't need hands or fingers because you're not carrying anything. You don't need to carry nothing. You don't need eyes because we don't see through our pair of eyes. I know it's crazy to wrap your head around, but you do not see through your pair of eyes. Like we said earlier, you can see 360 if you want to. You don't smell anything. You're not eating anything. You don't need this trunk of your body. You don't need these boobs. For what? No, I'm just kidding. You don't need this trunk because there's no heart, there's no stomach, there's no intestines, there's no lungs. None of that is there in your astral body. So what is the point of having another fake body? Like, you don't need it. That's where the higher consciousnesses are like, I don't need none of that. So I just have pure consciousness. I think of it as like a light. That's what I kind of think of it. I think it's just pure light floating around. It doesn't need these things. So yeah, we can arrive at the conclusion that the appearance of the psychosoma is ultimately obsolete, the astral body that we use. Yet it is one thing to theoretically understand our conditionings and another thing to overcome those conditionings in practice. So exactly that. We can say that it's obsolete and you don't need it in the astral world or in different dimensions, but completing that is something different because we're so used to in this world having a body, and especially in the beginning leaving in the astral body. And is that wrong? No, it's not. I still leave in my astral body all the time. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to doubt myself and say I haven't had a mental soma, but I don't remember it. So yeah, stick with it with your astral body, especially in the beginning when you're learning. Totally stick with it. But later on realize we don't, it's unnecessary. You don't really need it. So yeah, the mental soma is responsible for all our intellectual faculties. It's for discernment, will, ethics, decision-making process, organization, discipline, and mental somatic behavior is more logical, analytical, rational, lucid, aware, self-controlled. An important aspect is the Holo Memory. This memory is located in the mental soma, storing the record of everything that the consciousness has ever experienced in all its life and intermissive periods. In certain schools of thought, this is referred to as the Akashic records. As a result of this Holo Memory access, individuals are able to have retrocognitions and recollections of past lives. The mental soma registers in the Holo Memory every detail of our lives, whether we are aware of it or not. The mental soma is also the carrier of the consciousness and still uses bioenergy for manifesting. All right, so that's it for chapter 3, but there's a summary. We did pretty much at an hour. Okay. Through relaxation and energy work, we can start to feel the disconnection from the physical body. Many of these sensations are new and may surprise us initially, but they are not negative. Number 2, the extraphysical sphere of energy has a radius of about 13 feet from our physical head and is responsible for that blackout sensation that most of us kind of see sometimes in before we go to our astral body. So again, it's a new sensation, but it's not bad. Our level of extraphysical lucidity, which implies clarity of thought, perception, decision-making, ability, control, memory, among others, will determine the quality of our OBEs, our lucidity. At what percentage are you? Are you at low percent? Do you think you're dreaming? Are you at like 40, 56%? Where you like, hey, I know for sure I'm astraling right now. I just kind of don't really get everything. Or at 100%, you're like, I am in control of everything. I know what's going on. I know I'm astraling. I know where I want to go. I know what's happening. The more aware we are extraphysically, the more we control our emotions, and vice versa. So the more control you are of your emotions in this body, the more control of your emotions you are in your astral body, which is a good thing. We stabilize ourselves and increase our extraphysical awareness by working with energy, specifically by producing a vibrational state. If you want to learn how to do the vibrational state, I think it's in chapter 2. Will and attention are some of the main attributes we use to control our astral experiences. Astral perception is based on the reception of thoughts, sentiments, and emotions, which can occur through the entire psychosoma. Morphetheoscenes are extra-physical forms like the little vase I was talking about. Elements and realities created with theoscenes can be created consciously or unconsciously. Dimensions are different levels of energetic quality or holotheoscenes. Morphotheoscenes and extra-physical dimensions are created to compensate for the limitations of the consciousness in that dimension. Psychosoma has several attributes, including self-luminosity, which we just talked about. Weightlessness, we did that, okay. While outside the body, focusing our will on a target allows us to reach it. Outside the body, yeah. Extra-physical time does not have the same meaning as an intra-physical time. Again, time doesn't have the same meaning in astral projection as it does on Earth right now. Projections of the mental soma are an expansion in lucidity and can be produced directly or via the psychosoma indirectly. And the last 4 were literally, well, we were just talking about it, so I'm not going to go over it. Anyways, I hope you guys liked it. If you have any questions, please follow me, Esoteric Explorers, on Instagram, my TikTok, Esoteric Explorers. DM me there. I'm going to be starting a Patreon for if you don't want to watch these long videos and you just want me to give the information to you face to face. That will be my Patreon, and there will be a set fee, and I'll make phone calls with you and give you this information so you can learn how to OBE on yourself. So anyways, love you guys. Have a great day.